Hello and welcome. I'm wearing my comfy hoodie and I have my coffee, so you know it's got to be the patron AMA. Every month, the Featherwolf and the Dragon Fox tiers of my Patreon community get together for this private live stream, during which I also do a demo. And of course, as the name suggests, it's an AMA, meaning Ask Me Anything. So patrons are free to ask me absolutely anything about anything, and if I'm able, I will answer. So if you are watching this in the future, if you're watching a recording of this on YouTube, it's been over 30 days since the live event. So enjoy the show, and if you wish to join us for the next month AMA, the link to Patreon is in the video description. For those of you joining us live today, and us, of course, tech support is with us again, helping us run the show, in charge of all things technical and internet.
And doing new things to see if they work. And so, yeah.
See if we can break anything or fix anything or improve anything, because every show is a little bit better.
We hope. Sometimes not so much.
We try to make every show a little bit better. For our demo today, we have Gemstones.
Not ready. That was supposed to be my cue. So at that point I was supposed to queue up a video, but so Lisa's gonna keep talking while I make the technology do something.
We'll do it again. Retake.
Still not ready.
For our demo today, it's not your cue yet. For our demo today, we will be doing gemstones, which is a topic that you guys voted on. I did an episode on crystals a few weeks ago, and that was a huge success. Everyone really, really loved it, especially the color placement, the intensity of gradients, and the glow effects. But gemstones and crystals work a little bit different, mainly in a way that crystals are more organic. Crystals are natural formations of minerals, so they have that element of randomness and natural growth to them that you have to account for. And if you saw that video, which I know you guys did, if you're the Feather Wolves and are here live, I know that all of you have seen that episode. But then you specifically asked me about gemstones, which behave similar to...
Similar?
Similar?
Hi, this is Lisa's live stream where we make up new words for the English language.
Similar to crystals. Usually we end the show with an intense level of silliness, but today we start with it. Yay!
Tech support just left the room.
Oh, I'm on my own. Tech support just left the room. So how are gemstones different, and why do they need their own special show? Well,
Tech support's back.
Technically, a gemstone is a crystal, but one that has been cut and polished by a human being, or today a machine. So a processed crystal is a gemstone, and because gemstones have specific shapes, they reflect light quite differently. And also gemstones, when people select material for gemstones, they go for the purest color. So while in crystals you have that color variation from the natural brown base of the crystal formation to the pure color at the top, in gemstones you don't get that. You get the purest form of color, and it behaves differently. But to explain this nuance, I really wanted us to have live subjects. Dig in my vintage
Start
box.
back in time again because it killed the audio.
Start now.
So you went back in time.
Tech support strikes again.
I'm sorry. I missed my cue.
Aww. So, I went back in time in my magical time machine that takes me back to 1920, and I dug through my vintage treasure box to find the prettiest gemstones that I can share with you guys to actually have live subjects for us to work with today. And here they are. I also brought them to the studio with me. I will also be able to zoom on these guys with my new fancy camera remote, so we'll be able to see them close up, and we can see how light reflects off of them in real life. And when I say live subjects, this confuses a lot of people, because when you hear the word live, you assume it's like a live subject, like a human being or an animal or even a plant. But the term live subject actually means anything that's real, that exists in the real world, that's not... Whoa.
All right. That guy.
Hello, Buzz.
There's this guy with a bus full of vegetables that comes through our community. Yeah, the slider's not on right now. I'm going to lean my head in. So there's this guy with a bus.
That guy right there, he's awful.
And he parks, we're the first house in our community, and he parks right outside our house on the road, and he hangs out there and eats his breakfast, and he throws it on the ground, and then he plays that air horn so that people on the other side of the community can hear that he's here, and then he drives away. So even if we wanted vegetables, like, we can't chase him down.
We can't chase him down, he's too fast.
And he does it on Sunday morning. There he is again, driving through the community, bus with an air horn. We knew he was there. I warned Lisa that he was probably going to interrupt the stream with it. And so there he is. If any of you would like some tomatoes, some carrots, some oranges or lemons, I'm happy to go run him down. Just say the word. I'm not even in the chat yet. I'll be in the chat in a second.
It's funny because we can't even avoid this guy. Like, I could have planned my show around him, but he's not on schedule. Sometimes he does this in the middle of the night.
We can light his bus on fire.
No. This is a friendly channel. Go away. We can talk to the man nicely and say, hey, can you please not just ruin my live stream?
He doesn't even know what a live stream is.
No, he knows how to honk his horn, and he's a very simple program.
Anyway.
Where was I? Live subject. The term live subject confuses people because they think it refers to an actual living creature. But the term live subject actually means anything that's real, that exists in the realm of whatever we perceive as reality currently. Hence the term still life. So a teacup is still a live subject, even though it's obviously not animated. So our live subjects today are these very, very shiny gemstones that I dug up from my 1920s treasure box for you guys. And this one in particular, I really like. This is a quartz. And he's interesting because he's orange in color, mainly. But the way that the light reflects off of him, and also he's set very deep in the silver. So you see in the surface the reflection of the silver itself, the reflection of the light, which I have natural light behind me. I have another window over here, and I have a studio light going this way. So a gemstone, because it has so many facets, will reflect light from multiple sources. And usually we are dealing with multiple light sources, no matter where we are. Even if you're outside, you will have sunlight, but you will probably also have that sunlight reflecting off of other objects or the water or something. Indoors, certainly you have multiple light sources all the time. We tend to have more than one window. We tend to have maybe mirrors or overhead lights, desk lamps, and of course light bouncing off of objects in the room, creating all these beautiful reflections. So
hey, I think this just became the Home Shopping Network. And now, for a limited time, we have this gemstone. It is very pretty.
Hey, the quality of that video could be. We should maybe submit it to them.
Tech support has a new career as a hand model.
That's
Watch
right. You know, I could tell you were a hand model right away. It was very, very, very dainty the way you presented that stone.
Oh man, I can't believe you just used me and dainty in the same sentence.
Come on, tech support is dainty. Say it's
rugged.
not so.
Ruggedly dainty.
So the thing that is intimidating about coloring gemstones is that if I turn it just a fraction of a millimeter, the whole composition changes, all the light reflections change. And if you set it up as your life subject, even if I set it still in front of me, the slightest movement of my own body, of my eyes even, around the stone will change the way that I see the facets will change all that little glitter. And the glitter is exactly what we're trying to convey here. So I will teach you some tricks about first how to learn to see gemstones in your head so that you're not thrown off your game by all these little glittering facets that are constantly changing in front of you. And also some tricks of the light that you can apply immediately to any color gemstone to make it look like it's shiny. And with that, I have one more slide to show you before I start coloring. Looking at the...
Oh. That was supposed to loop. Hang on a second. So this is whatever.
No,
I will make no excuses for my failures. Let's see. We'll try this again. Loop, save, and remember I have to switch the audio.
I forgot. They probably heard nothing.
They heard nothing.
Are they hearing nothing now?
No, because it's back on. Oh, did it? It's back on that camera. No, they're still hearing us. So let's see. Highlight small. And now we can talk. Go ahead.
Hello, and welcome back. On this beautiful photo, we can see that the orange gemstone, you can see the 3 little white triangles on the top right part of it, and that's the reflection of the direct studio lighting that's shining onto it. You can see the same reflection on the same side of the blue gemstone. So when you see a little facet, and by facet I mean like a flat part of the gemstone, when you see one of those small geometric shapes on the face of the gemstone that's entirely white, that's pure white, and you have no gradient in there, that indicates that that's the face that's directly opposite of your light source. If I were to change the position of it, and the front face is facing the light, no matter how big that front face is, it will also become pure white.
Remember when I switch though, the audio. So the software has this weird thing where when I switch to another video that's like that, it actually cuts off the main audio that we're using. I didn't realize that when we started the stream. So now
now when we turn the gemstone, the face that happens to be facing the direct lighting is now the front panel of the gemstone, which happens to be this big flat part of this particular cut of stone. So regardless of the size of the facet, it becomes completely pure white if it's facing into the light directly. So this look isn't particularly flattering to the gemstone because you lose so much detail of the color. You can't tell what's going on in there, how many cuts are on the bottom of the stone. But it's a good demonstration of how when you turn the stone to face the light, whatever side is directly opposite of your light bulb or the window or whatever your light source is will become pure white. So that's something to consider when you're coloring them. And certainly if you had a whole pile of gemstones, like if you were drawing a treasure chest or something, and you had a whole bunch of gemstones scattered around, I would go for varying it, like showing some gemstones that have an entire big side of them like that, pure white, and others that have just little glistening parts, because overworking the gemstone is also a problem. You don't want to spend too much time on every single little facet and every single little color panel. So let's jump into coloring. I think we had enough theory. I will be working on, let's see, what am I working on? I have pre-colored this page for you guys so that we can reference it in case I run out of time and don't finish everything that I have planned for this live drawing demo, live coloring demo. So we do have a finished version of all the gemstones with the big red heart, of course, and then also blue, the same orange quartz that I have in my ring, and an amethyst. So you can see that the light and gradient definition on these stones has the same structure, has the same principle, regardless of the color that you choose to use. So that's what we'll deal with today. So actually, I will take this heart, and instead of coloring it the same red as I did in the demo picture, in the prepared picture, we'll do this one in the quartz orange color, so that you can see that regardless of the color, all the same principles apply. Now, I drew these. These are from these are parts of entire pages from different books that I combined into this sample page for you. And I posted this page on Patreon for you guys. So many of you may already have it printed. If you wish to color along with me, you are welcome to, of course. If you didn't get the page yet, it's up on Patreon. Just scroll back like a week or two and it will be there. So I will be working in mainly orange tones. So it will end up looking like this, but we'll be working on the heart. And as always, I've pre-selected my colors. So for an orange effect, I will actually need a medium brown, like a burnt ochre, which is what I have here. Working with Prismacolors, of course, still my favorite, still not a sponsor. But, you know, the clock is ticking. Prismacolor, you better be paying attention. This is your last chance to deserve my attention.
That might have been Prismacolor in the bus.
Oh my god.
Sponsor!
I missed it. So, burnt ochre. I chose a sepia brown as well. So any dark brown color will do. You don't need to match these perfectly. And certainly depends on your pencil set, on the paper you're using, on the pressure that you're applying to the page as you're coloring. So don't try to match the pencils exactly, but the type of colors that I'm presenting is what you want to try to match. So a middle brown that's kind of an orangey brown, a very, very dark brown, an orange that is dark, but not too bright. So this one is called mineral orange. It's kind of like a pumpkin color, which is once again confusing because here I have an orange that's called pumpkin orange. Prismacolor, get someone who is not colorblind to name your pencils, please. Like me. If there's a job offering, I am open. You will also need a bright yellow.
Actually, to be totally fair.
Oh. Let's be fair here.
Let's be fair. I think Prismacolor's color scheme was made for me. Because as a man, what do we got here?
We got 3 kinds of orange.
Mineral orange, yellowed orange, and yellow ochre. Okay, so I think ochre is like, that's that dude from Shrek, right? The big green guy?
No, that's ogre.
So, like, he could use some yellow because he's looking a little green. And then when I'm looking at oranges, like, it's important that there's a difference. Like, yellowed orange, I can get that, right? And then mineral orange, I can get that too, because, you know, minerals, dirt, rocks, that's a man thing.
This is coloring for men, for manly men.
Coloring for manly, rugged men.
Ruggedly
dainty. Now, I believe most of their colors are uniquely named in the blues, right?
Yes.
And that's because dudes can't see blue. Dudes can't see blue. You show us 4 colors of blue and we're like, yeah, that's the color of the sky. Or Bud Light or something. I don't know, is Bud Light blue? I don't think it is.
Blue ribbon?
I don't know if you can. I don't drink, so all of my alcohol jokes are going to be really bad.
Actually, I think it's green, isn't it?
Bud Light's not green.
Red, it's red.
Beer
it's
can't
red.
be green. No,
it's
that's
red.
Code Red. You're thinking Mountain Dew.
Oh, I'm so bad at this.
Anyway, back
to our colors. So we have our 2 browns, the dark, the middle. We will select a range of orange and yellows that are ranging from kind of muted middle orange down to vibrant yellow. And I will also need.
Woo.
There we go. A
Tech
light.
support got a remote control for one of the cameras today.
They're making me dizzy.
So hold them closer to the paper because that's where it's focused.
Okay. And also for my light yellow, I chose this color called cream, which in fact is very, very light lemonade yellow.
Cream, it's the color of milk that's gone bad.
It's like totally yellow.
For the dudes in the channel, I'll be helping you out.
Okay, maybe I don't want Prismacolor to sponsor me. I so totally disagree with all their naming. And of course, we'll be using our white charcoal. Because, you know me, I'm addicted to my white charcoal. Just can't live without it. Especially when we're working on tan toned paper. Oh, and for my secret weapon, I have dark purple. Because if you guys know me, which I know you do, if I'm using orange, I am also always using purple. Just because the two go so well together. They enhance each other. If you add a little bit of purple to an orange object, it will... to the dark parts of the orange object, it will make it pop. And the other way around, if you have a purple object and you're enhancing the lighter parts of it, if you add a little bit of orange there, it will just add that natural lighting to it. The two complement each other perfectly. So for these darker parts, instead of using really dark brown, I actually used my middle brown and added dark purple. Something very exciting just happened in the chat. What happened?
Something very exciting happened. Evelyn said that Bud Light's in a blue can.
Oh.
See, I watch a little bit of television. Now, for any dudes that are watching this, purple is the color of bruise. So when you're out there and you drop a cinder block on your foot, purple.
Very manly. Very, very manly. I am impressed.
It doesn't take much. She tolerates me. I'm on my third cup of coffee. I'm going to be a lot more animated in today's show.
Yes. Okay. So with this gemstone, I already gave you a lot of information with... oh, by the way, Evelyn! Hello! Welcome. Evelyn is a new feather wolf. Welcome to the pack. So great to have you here. So in this gemstone, I when I draw for you, I try to give you as much information with my pencil sketch marks as possible. So that you know, you can see the hints of which parts should be darker and which parts should be lighter without making it straight up grayscale, which will affect your colors. So allowing you to use fully saturated colors, but still giving you enough information to decide which facets should be darker and which ones should be lighter. I hope these are helpful. They actually were for me when I was coloring this one. So I intentionally left this triangle completely unmarked, suggesting that that's the facet that will be pure white, and therefore our light source is coming from this direction. Also, this part over here is less defined and these parts over here are less defined, which is consistent with our directional lighting, suggesting that the light is coming from here, hitting this plane, making it pure white, and more less definition, more white in this area, darker in the center because it's the deeper part of the stone. So it's probably reflecting a lot of itself, a lot of its own edges. This part right here, we have to keep in mind that that's the flat part. So I'll show you how to deal with that when we get a little bit further in the coloring. And then on the opposite end of this part that's very poorly defined because of the light hitting it, that's the light hitting through the gemstone. This part will also be a little bit lighter in color, but not white. It will just be not brown or purple, but more on the yellow side. So I will start with my middle tone. By middle, I mean it's not on the lighter part of the yellow spectrum, and it's not on the dark part of dark brown and purple. It's my middle brown, which is burnt ochre. So I will color over the lines that I already have here, and I will start by coloring the triangles that are shaded in with the lines. Who else is with us, by the way? Should I give anyone else a shout out?
Evelyn and Mel.
Hello, Mel. Thank you for joining us.
And
is Lori with us?
Nope, at least not in the chat. Only Evelyn and Mel are in the chat. So any of you all who are watching, please feel free to join the chat on YouTube.
Yeah, give us a hello. Send us a question. Okay. I know that Lori has to work this morning, but she was planning to still join us secretly on her phone while catching babies with her other hand.
She needs like a Google Glass or something.
Right? So she can watch live stream while she delivers babies.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll instill confidence in the new mothers.
Okay. So my plan here is to use my middle brown very lightly, mostly all over the place, leaving only the parts that have no hash marks completely uncolored. So while I'm doing that, I actually have a few questions that were already sent in to me before the show. And I had those printed out for tech support to read to me. So I'll be happy to answer them as I'm going through this first color.
See, we had a talk yesterday, and she decided that my role in the stream needs to be more involved. I need to do more.
That's
Besides
right.
Just because, like, if she leaves me alone, if she leaves me alone with no tasks, I break things. Like, no, I can totally make this better. Watch.
So here's this 10-page poem. Just read it, recite it. Don't touch anything else.
Would you like me to switch to the slider view, or do we keep the coloring view?
Keep the coloring view.
Coloring view. Can I put the slider view in the picture-in-picture?
Yes, please.
Watch this.
That would be cool. I love you all if I'm about to disappear.
Let's see. How does this work? Before I start reading my pictures.
Right. I feel like I've been cheated on the questions.
Oh, did I say read my pictures?
You did. You said read my pictures. Okay, no more coffee for tech support.
Oh man, they're not gonna believe that.
We need to. I don't drink it. I'm gonna read my pictures now.
Bud Light cat. Okay, so we got drawing, we got slider, we got save, we got switch. Woohoo! Okay, I'm gonna put on my my professional voice here.
Okay, bring it.
For the November session of the AMA live stream, we have a question from Sam who asks...
So wait, you have to read it in an Australian accent.
Crikey.
I'm sorry, Sam.
No, that's all you get.
Okay.
When you look at other professional drawings or our colorings, do you see little mistakes or like the wrong light or a different way that you would have done it, or do you just see it for what it is?
That is an excellent question, and it's complicated. It's both. The immediate response upon seeing any work of art, any visual image at all, is usually emotional. It's whatever. So yes, it's seeing it for what it is, for what it's meant to be. Obviously the actual technical quality of the piece affects how I perceive that intended emotion. So if it's meant to be a colorful circus performer with lots of lights around her, and it's done well enough to convey that she's in a very bright space, that she has this bright costume, that there are lights blinking around her, and it's done with a lot of attention to detail, then the first thing I see is, wow, that's really cool, and then I start examining it. And also, only after I spend some time looking at it do I start noticing things like, oh wow, I didn't even see how well the color is balanced here. Like this makes me happy because, and then I start analyzing it the way that a professional does, and I can't help it. Of course, I analyze every single drawing that I see, no matter who created it. That's just part of how my brain works. But the initial response is always just emotion, and a lot of times I'll inspect something, and my response is surprise because I see that it's not actually that well done, not that professionally done. Like the person may be a beginner, or they may not be that comfortable with the medium that they're using, or it just looks like the presentation makes sense from a distance, but when you look up close, you see that the colorist didn't really stay within the lines and it's a little bit messy. And I see things like that with more curiosity than judgment. Like, wow, even though that's not perfect, it actually looks really good as a presentation. So I'm always making notes, also for myself, like what I can learn from that. And most of the time, my reaction is very, very positive. Like seeing other people's art genuinely makes me happy. When I see anything that somebody has drawn or colored, like the first response is pure joy. It's like somebody else is speaking my language. So I hope that answers the question. Did that make sense to you?
Can I add some thoughts around that?
Yeah.
So tech support is also a professional, just not a professional artist. And as somebody who draws poorly, I have presented my drawings to Lisa, and at no point is there ever any kind of judgment. It's not, oh, you're a terrible artist. It's because it's my thing, and it's not for her to judge. It's for her to interpret, as she said, the emotion or lack thereof, depending on what I've drawn.
Oh, there's always emotion with your drawing.
But for myself, I think that this question can actually be framed in the context of any person who has skill doing a thing, looking at somebody else's production of a similar thing. And in all cases, so if I'm an instructor and I'm teaching somebody how to do something with Kubernetes or network administration or any of the really boring tech stuff that I do, where there is a difference in skill is an opportunity to help that person improve.
That is true.
Now,
yes.
It would be unfair for us to say that there's never been a time when we've looked at something that another person has produced and not been like, oh my God. But the difference between looking at something that's just, well, in the case of art, that might just be like graffiti on a wall or one of my drawings or whatever. The difference is, what was the person trying to do?
Yes.
Is the person presenting themselves as an accomplished professional, in which case there's a disparity between what they've produced and what they've said their skill is, or what they've alleged that their skill is.
That's a very good point.
So when there's that disparity, then that's where critique, being critical, it's not judgment, it's being critical of the production comes in.
Yes,
And this
and
is true across
critical in a
everything.
professional way, not in a negative way. Not like...
Well, I'm talking about like seeing garbage spray paint on a wall.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, yep.
Now, when that person is striving to do or produce something at the best of their ability, and there is an opportunity for their skill to improve, then there is never judgment. And there is never any type of critical interpretation in anything other than, hey, can I help you? And perhaps that person doesn't want help. I mean, honestly, I can look at a painting by like Van Gogh or Picasso and be like, this is total trash. She could never take me to a museum, an art museum, because I get like 6 feet inside the door and I'm like, yawn.
Yes, that is very true.
So it's important to separate those things. And in her position and in mine when I'm doing instruction and things, our objective is to help people improve and to provide instruction or information that guides that person on their journey, in so much as they're interested in being guided on a journey.
Wait, do you have more to say?
No, I was just going to keep talking.
Okay, I keep talking.
Go ahead.
I thought you were going to read the next question, so I was like, no, wait, let's still talk about this.
I was going to review this question and see if there's anything else that I wanted to add. But
Okay.
what did you want to add?
I forgot.
Oh, you haven't even walked through a door.
I know. Do you guys know about this phenomenon of forgetting things when you walk through a door?
All of us know the I believe is the sniglet. It was called Destinesia, where like you go somewhere and then you forget why you're there.
Yeah.
You walk into the other room to get something and you're like, I have no idea why I'm here. Well, there's a theory that says
That as soon as you walk through a door, like an actual doorway, the very act of walking through a door triggers something in your mind that puts you in a different mindset, in a different physical space, therefore in a different mental space, that you immediately forget things. And it's so true. We catch ourselves doing that all the time. Like Adrian will be in my room and we'll be talking and he'll start saying something. He'll say, oh, and there was this other thing that I want to tell you about, but he'll take 2 steps back and now he's in the hallway and all of a sudden he forgot.
it's gone.
It's gone. Just like that. It's incredible. So, there's no excuse this time because there's no door. I am about to switch to a different color, so let me explain what I did here before I switch. So with my middle brown, I've this area in here, this shape in the center, this is the flat part of my gemstone. This is the same as the flat part of this ring. But all the little lines and shapes that we see inside, that's the back of the gemstone. The way that they're cut is that they come to a sharp point on the back. You probably can't see it with this ring because it's so deeply set. But I'm sure you've seen gemstones or like the giant paperweights that are shaped like gemstones, and they all come down to this pyramid point. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing through the flat facet on the front, we're seeing everything come down to this point. So I divided it mostly in half and I made this part of it a little bit darker. But I also followed the suggested shading that I have here to color it in solid brown. And I want a relatively smooth gradient of brown to nothing in this center area, so that it's not too distracting. And generally I want the center to be darker than the rest of the gemstone because of the light source that we've already established. If the light was coming from here, then the front facet would be very washed out, hardly any detail there at all. But because we can already see, like I've already told you that we can see through it by drawing all these lines, and by leaving this triangle blank, we know that this area should be more shaded than the rest of the gemstone. So I've added a lot of my soft brown color in here. And now I will switch to orange, which is my main color. I'm going to take this yellow ochre in Prismacolor. I'm going to take this yellow ochre and I'm going to establish my main color of the gemstone. And in the meantime, I can take the next question.
Hang on, TechSport's trying to figure out how to make this camera do manual focus. Because it was like focusing in and out.
Okay, as I'm introducing this yellow-orange, you want to be more on the yellow side than on the orange side, depending on what you have in your pencil set. Introducing this bright color.
I have failed.
I am so tragic too. I
have failed.
Introducing this color, I'm going over all the brown areas that I've already established, plus I'm allowing the color to spill into the uncolored areas, the blank part of the page. It's important to go with lighter and brighter colors over the middle tones because it makes the middle tones pop more. So whatever color I've established, my middle brown, my whatever it was called, what was it called?
Dirt.
Burnt ochre.
Burnt dirt.
This burnt dirt color.
Like when you have a fire and you roast some hot dogs, then what's left at the end, smeared on
burnt
your face,
dirt.
and you go hunt deer.
That's right, this is manly coloring. So this burnt ochre is not a dull brown anymore. It has more oomph to it, more body, more saturation, and that's what we want. We want contrast in terms of color, and we want contrast in terms of dark and light, and that will create the gemstone effect. If you guys saw my episode on art terms that every colorist should know, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you watch it, and maybe several times, because I break down all those terms like contrast, saturation, tint, tone, shade, all these words that I use all the time that are actually quite tricky. They're not always what you think they mean. But when I talk about contrast, I talk about a stark difference of something. So like a contrast in opinions, for instance. If we have two completely opposite opinions, that's the contrast. In this case, it's the contrast of color, having bright yellow and deep purple are contrasting colors. A contrast in light and shadow is the ultimate contrast is black and white. If you have two gray tones that are very close to each other, a middle gray and a slightly darker gray, the contrast is very low. For gemstones, we want really high contrast and very strong saturation, meaning you want your colors to be as bright as possible.
Lori would like to know, what makes a finished image appealing to you?
Ooh, that's actually perfectly timed after Sam's question, because it's also about perceiving art when you look at it. I wonder if she means a finished piece. Does the question say mine or somebody else's?
It just says, what makes a finished image
appealing to you? Okay, I will answer it for both. When I see,
and then I get to answer it.
And then you get to answer it. When I see coloring pages, this especially affects me during event judging time. People submit 50, 60, 70 images for an event, and I usually pull them up on a large screen so that I can see all of them scroll by at the same time. And I have to study each and every one of them to decide on one winner, and it's always very frustrating because every one is so beautiful, and especially when I see them together on the screen, they're just like in Sam's question, the first reaction is just joy, and I'm overwhelmed with seeing all the pretty colors, and I'm so proud of my colorists that they're creating this amazing work. And if I helped in any way to make this work as amazing as it is, a sense of pride, almost a sense of ownership there. It's like, oh, I helped these colorists create this beautiful art. So once I get past that emotional wave of joy, enjoy this. Joy. This emotional, we're not crazy.
Charlie the Unicorn.
Charlie the Unicorn.
It will change your life.
We give you credit, Charlie the Unicorn. Once I get past that, I select, like in the case of judging an event, I'll select 20 or like 15 or 20 images that that make me experience the strongest emotion towards them. And the things that catch my attention are color choices and contrast choices. Like things that really stand out in contrast always grab my attention. And that's not specific to me. I also talk about that in the terms episode. The human brain is wired for contrast recognition. So it's not so much that colors grab our attention, it's that difference between dark and light. When a picture is colored very, very daintily with pale pastel colors, it doesn't jump out at you. And sometimes that's the way to go. I mean, obviously we have the entire Impressionist era of pastel colors with hardly any contrast, and that's some of the most beautiful art ever created. So there is a time and a place for that, but sometimes the gentle coloring is not the strongest way to approach a page. Sometimes contrast is a better way to go. So high contrast images immediately grab my attention, so I put them in my folder of images to examine more closer. And then I look for different, the things that I find more appealing, are things that look more like a painting or a watercolor drawing, even though it's done with pencils. So it's things that I can see the colorist took their technique to the next level. They tried something new. And sometimes I can see that they took a risk and they could have done better if they stuck with just pencils. But I still end up liking that work of art, just like I said, even though it's not perfect. I think it's a stronger piece than if they stayed safe. So taking that risk, for instance, Sam's coloring is always on top of my selections, because she's always taking risks. She's always trying something new. She has a lot of colorings with really high contrast, and they all look like paintings. So I always tell Sam, I want you as my art student subject. I want to teach you how to paint, because I believe that she already has that you're here with us, Sam, that you already have that in you, that painter's instinct. And those are the colorings that make me very happy. And sometimes it's things that I can't even classify. Sometimes you just look at something and it grabs your attention. What about you?
I'm trying to figure out if the drawing is going in and out of focus. I think because your hand is moving so much that the camera is like freaking out. Not freaking out, but I wanna try and fix that.
Okay. Do you want to read my next question, or do you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Oh. Okay.
Okay, wait. Before we do that, I am going to switch to a brighter yellow. This is yellow ochre. And I will do the same thing as I just did with light orange over brown. I will do my yellow ochre over the orange and spilling a little bit more into the white. So we will make the ochre brighter. The yellow itself will be bright. And we're going over the brown yet again. There will be lots of layers here. So this will bring out the saturation, make our gemstone really bright. Okay.
So what makes a finished image appealing to me is...
Because you often help me judge the events.
I do. When I help Lisa judge the events, before I start looking at anything, I ask her what the objective of the event was. And then when we start going through the images, I look for people's technical skill, the ability to convey the desired effect of what it appears their overall image was doing. but looking at things from a comparative capacity is different from looking at something that appeals to me. Because if we only looked at what appealed to us, then I would only pick the images that I liked. And I during the event judging, I work really hard to make sure that I'm picking images that are reflective of everybody as a whole.
And actually, we had that one event that was really difficult because there was one image that we just liked and we couldn't explain why we liked it, but it didn't actually follow any of the rules of what we were looking for. So I think we ended up having 2 winners that event.
So the things that appeal to me are in an image are things that I can relate to, things that convey an emotion, things that trigger a memory, things that, I guess triggering a memory is also tied to an emotion. So when, and this isn't just looking at the work of the colorist, this is imagery in general, seeing anything that I can put myself inside of,
right,
appeals to me.
And you may not, I think I like judging the events with you because you may not understand the technical reason for why it appeals to you. You just know that it appeals to you. Like, you may not know that it seems more realistic to you because of higher contrast.
Right.
You just know that it seems more realistic. Or, you know, like, you intuitively know what a realistic shadow across the face looks like. Like when we were judging the Forest Light event with the Rembrandt shadow. Like, you intuitively know, even though you may not know the science for the Rembrandt shadow,
Mm-hmm.
like, you can look at some of the colorings and see that looks realistic, that looks a little flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that sense, it's good to have your opinion because it's not influenced by technical theory.
One thing that I do understand very well is music. And in trying to communicate to Lisa how to work with music when she's working on her videos, when she was first starting out, so that when you're listening to something, you can't necessarily tell what is correct or incorrect or right or wrong. Those are too binary of definitions. But if you're in a song and something happens that pulls you back out of the song, then that's, you know, whether it was like a beat that was slightly off or a note that didn't fit within the scale that was chosen for the song, those are the things, like that's what I want to pay attention to when doing music production, is anything that breaks that dreamy state, that reverie, that illusion. And I think with art imagery, it's the same kind of thing. You can look at a beautiful photorealistic rendition of something, and if it intentionally has something anomalous in it, then that's part of the production. But if what is anomalous in it
is accidental,
yeah, is accidental, or, and here again I want to be careful because we're dealing with, you know, varying degrees of skill and people who are watching the streams, and
that has to be considered and is considered in the judging. Like, I don't only pick winners who are on the
Here, I have an example.
Yeah.
Borderlands is this video game that Lisa and I really like to play. We played Borderlands 2 back when we lived in New York.
Best
Borderlands
game ever.
3 just came out a few weeks ago, and so when we want to take a break for a couple of hours, we'll go and play some Borderlands together. And it's great. Borderlands, when you're doing multiplayer, in Borderlands 2, it was tied to the level of the group leader. So if I start a game and she joins my game, and I'm level 20 and she's level 10, all of the creatures that we're fighting are going to be level 20 and she's going to die. In Borderlands 3, they have a new mode where it's tied to where the creatures that you are fighting are representative of your level. So if she and I are in a room and there's 2 monsters, when she fights one of them, it responds as a level 10 monster, and when I fight it, it responds as a level 20 monster. That flexibility in interpretation is what we use when we're looking at images or art or anything that's being produced by anybody that's in her group. It's viewed in the appropriate context for the skill set of the individual.
Yes, if that colorist that is clearly a beginner has outdone herself or himself, that can be the winner of the event, even though
the technical acumen might be less than somebody who has 20 years of experience.
Exactly. Or for somebody that we know is a professional artist, professional colorist, and we see that they delivered something that's kind of basic and for them pretty easy to do, and it may look impressive compared to another submitted work, but it's not like they didn't go out of their way to really present something extraordinary on their level. Okay, and so I applied yellow all over here, and quite generously. And remember, we're still working with our orange quartz here. I see that the yellow is looking great. The orange brownish tones are looking great. I have more yellow on the edges of the heart than I have in the middle. The middle is darker with more brown. I want to bring out that color contrast, so I will use my secret weapon, the dark purple color, and I will apply it only to the darkest areas. And it bruise. It won't obviously look like purple, but it will make the yellow appear brighter to the human eye, and it will make the darker areas look darker. You can also use pure black on gemstones, but be careful with that, because you don't want a contrast that's so high that you lose the glossy feel of the gemstone. But pure black does work in gemstone coloring, so don't avoid it entirely. I will not use pure black in these because I have so many marks here that are already black. So technically it's already in there. So I think I will just build up my darkest areas with purple, brown, and yellow. Any more questions?
There are more questions.
All right.
While you answer this question, I'm going to go back into the frame over there.
Oh, no.
Try and make the focus work.
Okay.
So Lori also wants to know, what's the single most difficult thing for you to draw?
Ooh,
Air.
Air. I would have to say that that's myself.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, drawing myself is always challenging because it's always accompanied by this sudden rush of insecurity about even being able how to draw at all. And also I think I fuss over self-portraits too much, that I end up overdoing them. And I think it's a psychological thing because we all perceive ourselves different from how the world perceives us. So I don't know if I'm supposed to be drawing myself the way that I see myself or the way that I think you guys see me, or should I just pick the most flattering angle with the longest eyelashes and the shiniest eyes? You certainly don't want to do that either because that always ends up looking silly. So you want to be, I try to be honest in self-portraits, so not correcting any imperfections that I might think I have, not give myself bigger eyes or brighter hair or whatever. Actually draw myself the way that I see myself in the mirror on camera. But there's always, I'm never entirely free when I color myself. I always feel somehow restricted and somehow strangely uncomfortable. Like when I did the video intro that I just started using on my videos, the one that you guys saw in the beginning of the show, where I draw myself and then my drawing transitions into my real self. That was actually take 2. I did the first version of that intro, and I did the whole drawing. It took 5 hours. I did the whole drawing, the recording of the drawing, the transition of the drawing into my real self. The drawing plus the video editing and the music. I had the intro done. It was ready to go, and I kept watching it over and over again, and I just deleted it and started from scratch.
But to be absolutely fair, I saw the first take, and I thought it was wonderful.
Right, that's interesting. You did like it.
She did the second one, and I said, why did you change it? And she said, I just didn't like it, and I know enough to say, oh, well, okay then.
I couldn't explain it either. I'm usually really good at explaining why I like a certain work of art or something that I've done or haven't done according to what I expected. Usually I can look at my work and say, oh, I didn't use colors that are bright enough, or when I filmed this coloring or this drawing, it wasn't focused perfectly, so I have to do a retake because the recording itself isn't as high quality as I wanted it to be, or the table was shaking too much. Whatever. There are a million reasons why I may not like a certain drawing or recording of a drawing. But in this case, I couldn't even explain it. I just said I just didn't like it, so I redid the whole thing. So yeah, drawing myself. I have in my list of episodes to create an episode on self-portraits and why they're so challenging technically and psychologically. So what about you, love? What's the most difficult thing for you to draw?
Reality.
Reality.
Actually, even fantasy.
No, you draw very fantastic dogs.
Yeah, well, okay, well. It's been fantastic. Like, you tell me to draw a dragon, you know, you might be able to recognize that it's a thing with a tail. Maybe.
I see.
It's tough.
The other thing that isn't really difficult for me to draw, but something that I don't really enjoy as much as I do the rest of the stuff that I do for you guys, is architecture. I get really bored with architecture. So I'll do and you don't see me, create any drawings that's architectural in any of my coloring books or in any of my live presentations, just because I don't really see what all the fuss is about. Architecture is there anyway. People get to see it every day. Like, why do you need to paint it? But I went through this phase when I was a teenager where I did like a lot of older, more Gothic architecture. So I did a lot of drawings and paintings of old Gothic cathedrals that I really enjoy. But even those, there's not enough. There's no fluidity in them. It's too structured. It's too symmetrical, and I feel like I'm just copying and pasting the same task over and over again until the thing is finished. So unless it's really far away and in really dramatic lighting where I can play with the whole composition with light and shadow and weather, then that would be an interesting way to depict architecture for me. But other than that, that's not something that I enjoy a lot. I prefer organic things and living things, things that have character and personality and emotion. And I apologize to all the architects out there. I know that buildings have character and personality, but they're just not as amusing for me to draw. Okay, so you see that I've added. Oh, that light looks great.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more light. It's a little bit darker today than it was yesterday, so the camera's having some difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the weather is actually gloomier. Yes, this is most excellent lighting. So what I've done is I've added dark purple to the darkest parts of the gemstone, and it made a huge difference. It's not solid black, but it's dark enough. If I made this picture grayscale, like if I took a black and white photo of it, these areas would appear pure black. But in full color, so they're the same darkness, but you actually have color there, and that's the nuance that's important to capture in coloring. Instead of pure black, go just as dark but with color, and it makes enough of a difference to the viewer to relate to the object as more realistic. So dark purple, I'm a huge fan. Actually, this dark purple pencil is what got me started on Prismacolors. I had that random one purple pencil in my box that I really liked, and I used it to nothing. It was so tiny. I only had I think like half of the 3 and the 1 of its number left. And I said, oh, if only I had more of these pencils. I have no idea where it came from. So Adrian had to do research online to
busted
see.
out my secondary skills as a forensic scientist.
Yeah, and see which pencils have this particular silver mark with the numbers on them and which one ends with a 3-1 or an 8-1. And determined that it's a PC 931 Prismacolor pencil. And bought me my first Prismacolor set, and then I was hooked. So huge fan of this purple pencil for dark shadows and for bringing out saturation in all things orange.
Here, keep your hand off of it for a second.
Oh, off of it? Okay.
Yeah. This camera that's back here is old. Oh my gosh. Really? That was interesting.
What?
Oh no, it actually, as I was like talking smack about it, it manifested focus peaking and like zoomed in and stuff. It's actually rather impressive. I'm sorry, camera. 0.7 meters? I don't think
Machines do
20
respond
meters,
to
something like
Adrian the way that I think dogs do to me.
It's funny, this is actually going to be in the stream. It's all like, oh no, wow,
Can-
it's not actually even adjusting this, so...
Can I touch it again?
Yes you may.
Hey. It's an adult coloring stream, but it's still.
Okay, we are set for manual, and I think that looks...
Okay.
It's tough, 'cause I'm watching the stream in low quality, so like, I can't tell if the focus is...
Well, I'm seeing this preview screen that's in front of me, and it looks really good.
I also have recently begun wearing glasses, so I can't tell if, like, what I'm seeing. Actually,
You have to
that
squint a lot.
looks alright.
Why don't you ask the people in the chat?
I did.
Oh, what did they say?
They said that the focus was messed up before,
Okay.
but that it got better.
Okay.
But then people are also having connection issues. And
It's true. The focus that they're experiencing may just be low resolution video stream.
which is exactly what I'm dealing with because I'm watching it in low res. Yeah, it looks actually quite good over here. Okay, people who are in the chat, if the focus is whack, please tell me.
Please let us know.
Let us know, and I will continue to mess with it, and I will make it better, maybe.
Better.
Lisa, do you only have one set of pencils, or do you have multiple sets and you mainly go to the Prismacolors?
I have multiple sets. Actually, should I show them?
No. Well, I don't know if you want.
Okay. I have quite a few sets. I don't actually know all of their names. I have them in bins. I have this old organizer box that I used to use for my tattoo supplies, and now I use for pencils. And it just has everything mixed in there because I don't actually, as much as I'm a Prismacolor junkie, I don't actually care about brand names outside of Prismacolors. So I just have this box of miscellaneous pencils of various brands that I do play with. I do occasionally pull out that box and color with other pencils. I have I almost had it. There was a brand name that I'm actually familiar with that I know I own, but I lost it. Yes, I have other brands, but for my videos, I've only used Prismacolor so far, just because I know that I can rely on them completely. I know exactly how each color behaves at this point, and it's this level of familiarity with this brand that I like. It doesn't mean that it's the best brand on earth, or that it's the best brand for everyone. It's just that I know it so well that I know there will be no surprises during a live stream, that I can expect the color to look exactly the way that...
No surprises from the pencils.
That I imagine.
But, we like to keep things lively, so you got me.
That's right. And now I'm adding a little bit of red, because red over yellow makes a really beautiful orange. So I'm adding just a little bit of red here and there to make the orange effect pop, but it's not actually a red gemstone.
For dudes, depending on the type of day it is, it's either the color of blood or the color of the sunset.
Aw, that's so romantic.
Well, yeah, so I said, depending on what kind of day it is. You can't be out there with the ladies and being like, blood. You gotta be like, sunset and Bud Light.
Very romantic.
That's me.
You are all that is romance.
All that is romance. Actually, I'm kind of romantic.
You are actually extremely romantic.
Aww.
No,
I gotta switch to the
we're
side
so cute.
Aww.
No.
Okay, they're disgusted now.
Okay, good.
No.
Good.
Do you want me to set up the iPhone camera and then I can walk over with you and you can show your crazy pencil box?
Oh, I don't know. I'm scared now. I'm even afraid of that box. In terms of color pencils, I think I answered it. But in terms of other tools, I also have a whole bunch of different charcoals. I have 3 brands of pastels, oil pastels and chalk pastels. I have a lot of these guys, my white charcoal that I really love. And also I have a collection of different ink pens and gel pens. I'm not sure where most of my tools actually come from. They kind of gravitate towards me. So the reason that I don't know the brand names for most of these things is because I didn't actually buy them. A lot of them are gifts, or I inherited them from someone who tried them, didn't like them, and sent them to me, which is, I think, is a really good thing. I like trading things with some of you as well. Like if I try something out and I'm like, I don't really know if I will ever use this, but I bought it. It's really cool. Like, are you interested? And they'll be like, yeah, totally. I'll give it a try. I have a whole bunch of ballpoint pens here that I'm never going to use. How about we trade that? So I'm a big fan of tools just ending up with the person that seems to be the rightful owner of the tools. Any more questions? In the meantime, wait, I will switch to my white tool brain fart. What is this called?
White charcoal.
White charcoal. The thing I'm addicted to.
Dudes, that's the color of cloud.
Cloud.
Or what else is white? In a dude's life.
Yogurt?
Dudes don't eat yogurt. Not like that.
Manly dudes.
It's okay
manly
to eat yogurt. Dudes, it's okay to eat yogurt.
Come on, like dudes
I'm just like thinking,
dudes that work out like eat yogurt, don't they?
If they do, they'll never admit to it.
They'll never admit to it. You know they do. They have a fridge full of yogurt.
Man, what you doing? I'm eating yogurt.
And salad.
Salad. Nah, man, they're like, steroids. Or no, sorry. Protein shake.
Protein shake, right? It's a protein shake. White charcoal. We could have started with it. You know that I often like to start with white charcoal. There's really no benefit to either starting or ending with it here. The main reason that I would start with it, if that was my choice, would be to establish my my lightest triangles first, so that I don't accidentally color them. But we have another tool set aside for exactly that type of an emergency if we need to add more white than what we left blank space for. So worry not.
It's called spray paint.
Pretty much. It's called white gel paint, the pen. So it's kind of like whiteout, and it goes over everything, and it's a good end of a coloring tool because it will be pure white no matter how many layers of color you have underneath. So you see, just adding this one pure white triangle already makes the gemstone look like it's glowing. And the reason that it works in this area, because I strategically made all the parts around it the darkest part of the gemstone. So try to combine those two. Try to have not too many white, like pure white reflective surfaces, but try to have your darkest parts right next to them. That contrast will make the glow effect. Okay, I'm ready for the next question now.
Did you think, oh, hang on. Did you think you knew everything about color after art school and a lot of years of practice? Or did you learn even more things that you didn't know after taking photography classes?
Most excellent question. When did I learn about color? Let's start with that. I started learning about color as a kid, way before art school. Most of my art knowledge and technique is actually stuff that I've taught myself. Not entirely myself. It's not really an accurate statement because I learned by looking at a lot of art and by copying a lot of classical art. So technically I learned from the masters, but they weren't there to physically teach me. I taught myself from them, from the books, and just practicing every day and discovering new things about color. Then when I went to art school, which was university, so I was in my early 20s, I did not actually learn anything new about color at all. I did pick up some new tricks in art school, but not mainly about style. Like the role that art school played for me is that first it gave me a huge studio space to work in, so I was able to work on large canvas. So that was kind of life-changing because I didn't have the space for such things in the apartment that I was living in at the time. But I had this giant studio in college where I could just play with huge canvases, like as tall as I am, which allows you to really step back from your work. You plan it out differently. You know, you obviously have to work at full arms reach from the canvas, and it's a whole different experience. It's like a new type of dance that you're suddenly doing, completely different from this close-up kind of drawing and coloring. So that improved, I think, my understanding of color versus contrast on a large scale that I could then apply to smaller scale coloring. But also because I was taking so many different types of art classes, because it's required when you're majoring in art, you have to do drawing of like 3 different levels of drawing: still life drawing, realistic drawing, cartoon drawing, watercolor painting, oil painting. My specialty was classical oil painting, so most of my classes were in that. But they were also like drafting classes, geometry, understanding of geometry classes. So just having that diversity of things that I didn't necessarily want to do all of them, but I had to do all of them, actually opened up my mind a lot and allowed me to use the things that I learned in these different classes, use them in my other art. So that's what I learned in college. I didn't actually learn anything about color itself, but I learned to use color to express, to try to play with different styles. But then later, like around this time, I also took photography in college, but it was black and white manual photography, where you actually develop your photos. So that was all about contrast and composition. No color there at all. Now that we're doing photography and video together, we've taken some classes on photography, and we're constantly watching YouTube tutorials on how to improve video production and how to take more professional photos. We're learning a great deal. And yes,
like every single day at dinner, we end dinner knowing something new and amazing.
Yeah, and every day I learn something new about color as well. Like the basic principles of color obviously don't change. All the things that I taught you about the color wheel and tints and the tones, those are universal. They won't ever change. But in terms of presenting color in a digital format, like learning color correction and color grading for photography and video, is a whole new universe of color. So actually I have to consider the colors that I'm choosing for my physical work, considering how you guys will see it on camera after it's been processed. So I'm actually altering the colors that I'm using here so that you perceive them even more vibrantly, even better. That's my color answer. And now I will switch to my gel pen. We're almost done with this gemstone. I certainly have enough white here, but I want this to be extra sparkly. So I will take sparkly. So I will take my white gel pen and I will make a couple of... Oh, did it just die? No, there it is. You have to really shake these guys. They're like white out. So I will make a couple of small facets completely pure white, these guys here, and I will also go over the outlines in this area so that there are no outlines, it's just white.
You ever use Faber-Castell polychromes?
Yes, Faber-Castell, that's the name I was looking for. I have some of them.
Okay.
Yes, I do like them.
That's what Evelyn likes.
Yes, I do like them quite a bit.
And Cindy likes Fantasia.
Cindy's here!
Cindy is here.
Welcome!
Fantasia Artist Color Premium.
I have heard of them. I haven't tried them yet. But if you give them a good review, I'll give them a shot.
Cindy says that she only started coloring adult coloring books last July.
Oh, that's incredible.
But she'd really like to find good sources to expand. Besides YouTube, what other sources do you use to learn more about this media?
For adult coloring?
Mm-hmm.
Actually...
I maybe for coloring in general.
For coloring in general? If you're looking for video, YouTube is the best. Like there aren't any, as far as I know, there aren't actually any classes or schools that are specific to adult coloring. There are individuals who offer classes. You would have to look for them. Maybe on Udemy might have a course.
Udemy or Skillshare.
Or Skillshare.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Udemy is great. I've taken some of their classes. I take classes all the time. Like I don't think that anyone ever stops learning. I am always open to learning more things and learning the way that other people do the same things that I do. So like 6 months ago, I took a drawing class on Udemy just so that I can improve my character drawing. And it was great. It was totally worth the money. It was, what, $10?
Yeah, so if you go to Udemy, so Skillshare is interesting because you pay a monthly fee and you get access to every single thing that they have, which if you're going to learn a lot of stuff in a short period of time, that's a good program. But if you're going to learn like one thing every 4 months, then consider that you're paying 4 months worth for that one class. If you go to Udemy, Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y. I have no idea how they actually pronounce it.
Can you write it in the chat?
Sure. udemy.com. So if you go to Udemy, that place, they will usually list their classes as like $100, $60, $400. Don't do that. Wait, and about every 10 days or so, they have a mad, crazy, once-in-a-lifetime sale where things are $9 or $4 or $12, and you can buy a bunch of classes then and put them in your queue and watch them later. So we never pay more than
$10, $12?
Yeah, $10 to $12 for a Udemy class.
Yeah.
And then look at their rating stuff. Try to get classes that are longer. Obviously, $10 for a class that's 40 hours is better than $10 for a class that's 2 hours.
And I don't know what their scanning process is for classes, but
like their vetting?
Yeah, their vetting, because so far everything we've bought from them has been very professional.
Except that one.
Which one?
The one with the guy where he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna teach you about photography."
I forgot about him. Was he on Udemy?
He was on Udemy. Yeah.
Oh, he had an intro that was like 3 months long.
He had an intro that looked really good, but then you get into his classes, and his classes didn't really have a lot of technical value. But what's cool about Udemy is if you start watching something and it's not what you want it to be, you just tell them, and they'll give you a credit, and you can take a different class.
Yeah. So that would be my recommendation. And also, I think just spending a lot of time in coloring groups and interacting with other colorists, joining events, definitely challenging
You're
yourself.
You're going to get better by doing it over and over
Yes.
and over again, and objectively looking at what you've done, not being critical, not being like, "Oh, I'm terrible," or like I make jokes that I'm a terrible artist, but I also don't ever try to become a better artist. I'm proud of being a terrible artist.
Right. You don't try. You just like I don't try technology.
But the things that I do feel I am good at, I don't feel that I've learned everything about. And I am consistently working to improve my skills and looking at, like, at the end of every single live stream that we do, let me switch this to the other view. Mm-hmm. At the end of every single live stream that we do, we meet for a few minutes, usually lunch, or we go for a walk, and we say, what about that could we have done better?
Yes.
Even if the live stream was perfect, we'll find something where, okay, next time let's try and do this a little bit differently. Let's try and do that. I wish that Lisa discovered that when the camera was zoomed in, there was too much wobble when she was working. I just discovered that if I'm typing on my keyboard next to her, the whole table shakes.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's going to affect her stuff, so I'm trying not to type. So looking at not what you did wrong, but how you can improve. Pick one thing, and the next time, do that one thing better.
Yes.
If you have a whole range of stuff, like if I was going to sit down and really try to become, let's talk about transitions.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so I'm doing a lot of video stuff, and there are things where I really think that I fall short of what I would, the level of skill that I would like to have. So rather than going out and trying to make a complete video, one of those things is in-camera transitions. When you're watching a YouTube video and you see that they like whip out of something and then they like pan in and suddenly it's a different thing entirely, and you're like, oh, that was amazing. I can't do that.
And you find it very frustrating.
And I do find it frustrating when I'm out there because I'm trying to make a complete video and I'm trying to gather information on 40 different things, and that's overwhelming. I end up doing 40 things poorly. So what Lisa suggested is that I go out and I accept that I'm going to do 39 of those things poorly, and I focus on just one of them. And I continue to develop that one until I can do that one well, and then I'll pick another one, and then I'll pick another one. And limiting the scope of what I'm trying to improve allows me to not look at the whole production and feel negative emotions about it. I can just look at that one thing and say, is this better than what I was doing yesterday? And if it is, then I've accomplished my goal for today, and tomorrow I'll do it even better.
Yes, and looking at other people's work, the reason that coloring groups are so helpful, and the reason that I keep running events all the time, isn't to just judge people and say this person is better than everyone else. That's not the point. The point is for people to participate in something that's challenging, that takes them out of their comfort zone. That's why.
And that's safe.
That's safe. Yeah, where you get to play, you get to work at the same time. Every coloring is a work in progress. Every new coloring will be better than the previous coloring. But when you look at other people's submissions, I think the important part is not to just be overwhelmed by how beautiful everyone's work is, but to look at the ones that jump out at you, like what appeals about that particular coloring to you. And it's easy to say, oh, that's so beautiful, I can't do that. And we all do it. I see other people's drawings and colorings, and they immediately look 100 times better than my own. It's not real. It's in your head.
It's in your head.
So consider that. Remember that every single submission out of those 70 submissions, every single one of them feels the same way. Every single one of them looks at the others and says, they're all beautiful and mine isn't as good. But when you look at the ones that you find particularly beautiful, take a note, like actually put them up on the screen and make physical notes on your paper about what makes them so beautiful. Not just, oh, it's so much better, it makes me feel a certain level of emotion, but what specifically is it? Is it their use of color? Is it their use of contrast? Is it the colors that they chose? Is it the medium that they used? Like, what did they do that makes their coloring so spectacular to you? And then try to do the same things, not by copying them, but by using that skill that makes their coloring stronger. For instance, I look up to Kat Datillo quite a bit. Like, she is my coloring idol. Like, she does digital coloring the way that I don't think I will ever be able to paint digitally, because she has her own very, very strong style. She does this thing with light and shadow that's just, it's her. No matter how much I try to copy it, my style is stronger than what I'm trying to pretend to be, and it always wins, and it always comes out looking like a Lisa Mishrakin digital coloring and not a Kat Datillo digital coloring.
But that's good.
But that's good, and I have to remember that.
Yeah.
I have to remember that I don't actually want to be her. I just want to have the same strength that she does. So instead of
we look
copying,
at people who are strong and we admire them, and we want to be strong.
Exactly.
Not to be them.
Exactly.
But we want other people to look at what we produce and have the same feeling about what we've produced as we have about their work.
Yeah.
I read a thing once that said that the only thing that you can actually feel by yourself in isolation is cold and hunger. Every other thing is a comparison between yourself and something outside of you. So
true.
if you simply compare yourself to yourself, you will grow. Yes,
that's very good advice. How are we doing on time?
Oh my god, it's like 4 in the afternoon.
Oh my god. Are the cameras even running?
It's 12:25, so if you wanted to keep this under 2 hours, you got about 35 minutes left.
Okay, in 35 minutes, can you please ask them they can hear me?
Actually, I've had you on mute.
Do you guys, would you guys like me to color one of the smaller gemstones in the minutes that we have left? It will be a lot faster because it's small, and you can pick a color. You know, let me know in the comments what color and which one of these three gemstones and what color, and we'll do that for the rest of the show while we continue to chat.
While you are waiting for them to respond, Mel would like to know if you have a preferred brand of white gel pen. These are the Posca things we were talking about.
These are the Posca things. Again, it's not preferred because it's the best in the world. It's preferred because it's the one that I own. It's the only one that I own. There are 3 of these floating around the house. And
focus didn't work.
And somebody sent them to me from the UK as a gift, and I tried them, and I absolutely love them. I had a discussion with a subscriber on YouTube about calling this a gel pen, because there was confusion about whether a gel pen is the same as an ink pen or an acrylic pen or whiteout. And I did some research on this, and everywhere that I find the Posca brand, they are actually referred to as a gel pen or a white gel. So I think that is the correct term for them. And they do work over pencils beautifully. They don't smudge. They work exactly like acrylic paint or whiteout. So I would recommend these. I think they're quite excellent. Posca. And they also seem to last. Last! I got very excited. They also seem to... I have to do a volume threshold on that video. A limiter. They also seem to last a ridiculously long amount of time. Somebody sent these to me over a year ago, and I'm still on the first one. I mean, I don't use them a lot, but I do use them on every single coloring for shiny stuff. So I feel like if I had paid for them, I would have gotten my money's worth out of them by now.
Oh, Mel says that she has one and it's terrible.
Really? Why? Can she explain? Why do you find it terrible? I find that with product description, things get confusing and very personal because of what people are trying to do with a particular tool. For instance, I've had people say that they find the white charcoal to be not a good tool, and after speaking with them for some time, I realized that they thought that it didn't work at all because they were trying to apply it over the colored pencil, and that will just never work. So you need to learn how to use your tool prior to setting expectations about that tool. So just because you want the white charcoal to work over colored pencils and it doesn't mean that it's broken. It just means that you're using it not for what it was intended to. It works best over clean paper.
It's not a Posca. She has a different one.
She has a different one. Okay.
Well, that's why it sucks, because it's not a Posca.
Posca, we apologize. You may sponsor our channel as well. You're welcome. We like you. We're not sponsored by Posca, by the way. We have to say that. So
I don't know if we actually really have to say that.
I think what Peter McKinnon said that we have to say it.
Oh, well, if Peter McKinnon said it. We're also not sponsored by Peter McKinnon.
We're also not sponsored by Peter McKinnon. He said it in the video where he was teaching his dad how to be a YouTuber. And his dad kept using all the brands of all of his equipment. And Peter was like, oh, you have to say not sponsored. So his dad started saying it. That's all I know.
Okay.
I don't claim to know more. So
we have answers for you, by the way.
Oh, yes, please.
Middle one in green.
This one in green.
In green.
Alrighty. I happen to have green pencils here already.
And Evelyn would like you to know that she likes the gem that you just colored better than the one in the sample. Yes.
Oh, excellent. Nice.
I think the shiny reflectiveness of the one that you just had, I think it's much better there.
It's more shiny.
And also you have a much larger gradient between the oranges and the yellows and the browns.
Yes.
Than just the reds and the blacks.
Yes, I agree. I think this is a little bit more muted. This is more like a ruby, which isn't very shiny. It's just like a highly saturated, not very see-through stone. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one is like crystal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and certainly that also, it helps that it's a light color. Yellow will make a much stronger color gradient because I can go from yellow to black and it pops. Whereas a deeper color like red or purple, it's going to be more difficult to get that really strong gradient. But you said green.
Green. Are there, what's a yellow gem? What's
that? This one is a quartz. A lot of quartz is yellow.
It doesn't quartz like not really count as a gem?
It does.
It's like you can find it in like dirt piles.
You can't. This isn't an expensive.
Like I remember as a kid, like going out into my backyard in Phoenix,
you can tell from the size
and I pull up rocks. It's got quartz in them. I mean, I know quartz makes crystals and like they're pretty and stuff, but it's like
it's common. It's common. It's still a gemstone. It's just not a precious gemstone.
Oh. Yes. Okay. So that could be a beautifully. So somebody took the time to take some quartz and cut it into that beautiful heart shape.
Yes, exactly. And the reason that you would do that, like the reason that I own
you don't
this
have diamonds,
is because
because you're poor.
Yes, because if this was a diamond, this would have been like a 12-carat diamond.
Well, yeah, I don't actually expect it to be a diamond. No, but are there any precious gemstones that are yellow?
There is yellow topaz.
Oh.
There is yellow. I think actually even aquamarine comes in the canary yellow.
Isn't aquamarine, like the fact that it has aqua and marine, doesn't that make it turquoise?
This is actually aquamarine. This is aquamarine, the gemstone, and it's aquamarine in color.
Okay. So it's like diluted water.
So it's like diluted water.
It's like a cup of water with a drop of blue food coloring in it.
Yes, it's exactly like that. Very romantic description.
So the reason I was asking about the yellow gemstones is because when I look at that, I think of amber, and amber makes me think of dinosaurs. That makes it super cool.
Amber is not a gemstone.
Amber's not a gemstone. I know, that's why I asked. Because you're not gonna find like mosquitoes buried inside of a topaz.
No.
But you will find prehistoric mosquitoes buried inside of amber, and we all know from
Jurassic
Park that, like, you know, it's just. It's a private island and a rich billionaire dude away from Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes. What else? Oh, there are yellow diamonds.
Aren't they low quality though?
They are not. They're okay. Colored diamonds are rare. So if they are small in size, colored diamonds are actually not as valuable as white diamonds. White diamonds are the purest form of a diamond. A color is actually a deficiency in the carbon structure, but it is very appealing. I used to be a gemstone appraiser and a diamond appraiser, which is why I know these things.
Back in New York.
Back in New York in the diamond district. So diamonds under a carat that are colorful are not as valuable as white diamonds, but they are still, like canary yellow diamonds, are quite desired. Once they go above a carat and they're colorful, they actually increase in value. So a diamond this size, if it was possible, that's canary yellow, because it's difficult to keep a consistent color for that size. That's extremely rare. So just the rarity of that stone makes up for the carbon deficiency.
Okay.
So like the heart of the ocean in Titanic.
Ah, yes.
The big blue diamond, extraordinarily rare, extremely expensive because...
Unless you're in space.
Because it's blue. Unless you're in space, because there are entire planets that are made out of diamonds.
In space.
In space. Okay, so for green...
we have gem answers, by the way.
I am using... What is this? What does it say? Can you read it?
Vert de Prusse? Or the number?
There's an English version as well.
Prussian green.
Prussian green.
Prussian. It even has the word Russian in it.
Well, it's all like...
Yeah, it's very small.
The font is very thick.
So apparently you can have tourmaline or topaz.
Tourmaline, yes. Topaz, we knew that.
Yeah, so topaz and tourmaline.
Topaz and tourmaline, cool. And do we have any other questions? For this one, the way that I drew this, you can see that the darker parts are on this side and on this side, and that's because I have the two stones hidden behind them, so the darkness of this stone and a little bit of the color of this stone will be seen through the green gemstone. Again, here you can see that I used a little bit of blue on this side, a little bit of purple on that side, but not a lot, because these guys are more reflective than they are transparent. So the front facet will be lighter in color, and I left this area for the big reflective spark. So our light source is coming kind of from this direction, not straight on, because that would make the whole front face pure white, but a little bit from an angle. I would say the light here is shining there. So I will apply my green.
I gave you some more paper.
Oh, thank you. I do like paper.
You were dangerously close to the edge of the frame there.
I could also move my paper.
Citron.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that in the answers. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, of course, it even sounds like citrus.
Right, citron. It's like
it's been
yellow tequila.
It's been it's been a few years since I worked as a diamond appraiser, so I'm forgetting my gemstones. Any other questions for me?
Nope.
While I'm doing green.
Nope. Actually.
And did I answer all the questions on the paper?
Yep.
Cool.
You want me to make up some questions for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
How hard are you pressing when you're coloring? Are you varying?
I am varying, yes. On these parts that are darker, I'm pressing more. But not so much as to actually... The paper is relatively soft, so if you press on it really hard, you can feel that you dented it if you run your finger over it. So I'm not pressing so hard as to dent the paper. But...
This paper feels a little toothy.
Yes, it is toothy. It has a little bit of texture to it, which I really like for for coloring. And I'm using tan toned just because it's fun. You certainly don't have to. When coloring gemstones, you could have done this on white paper or gray paper or any other color if you have pencils that are where the pigment is strong enough to cover the color of the paper completely without being altered. Then go for any color paper. But pressure, like now when I'm doing this very light gradient, I am barely gliding on the surface of the paper, and I would rather go over a certain area several times, lightly pressing.
That makes sense.
Than just adding, like physically adding more pigment to that area instead of adding more pressure. So, and here I will do a gradient from dark to light, and the reason I'm doing this is because I have this giant sparkle here that will be reflected, and in order to bring it out more, for it to look even more sparkly, I want the areas around it to be darker. So that contrast will make it look darker, just like we did over here. And a lot of coloring gemstones is making stuff up on the spot, because nobody can check if it's 100% correct. Because that one position of that one particular gemstone that you may be coloring can never be replicated in any conditions. So it's not an exact science.
So it's a matter of suspension of disbelief.
Exactly. It's you need to create this enough randomness with enough structure for it to be believable. But you can't actually measure this against anything to say if it's 100% accurate or not. It's all about creating an illusion. Okay, that color was fun, but I think we need more aquamarine.
Aquamarine.
What a lie. What a lie. This is literally aquamarine, the gemstone, and they're calling this pencil aquamarine. This is turquoise. It's totally turquoise.
For dudes, that's the color of ocean with a little bit of algae.
That's right.
We're getting fancy now. We're
how
mixing
about
two
the
elements
algae?
together.
Okay, this is parrot green. I like this one. I can agree with this. I've seen parrots this color.
I have seen parrots that color.
Yeah.
Those ones we had in Santiago.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of cool living in South America where there are actually parrots.
Yeah, like pigeons, but parrots.
Like from the United States, we're used to regular birds, sparrows, swallows, pigeons, mostly pigeons. Being from New York, the occasional hawk, also in New York, robins, blue jays, crows, ravens. But I always thought of parrots as like the thing that you got from the pet store, and people kept in cages. Yeah,
first time we saw a parrot on the street, we're like, oh, somebody lost their parrot.
But in Santiago, there were just hundreds of parrots living in trees in these giant, very noisy nests.
Yeah, they are very noisy.
And we have a flock of canaries that live on our property.
Wild
canaries, yeah, they come out in a flock, and they're funny. They're like, we're gonna fly up into the tree. We're gonna fly down to the ground. We're gonna fly up into the tree.
Yeah, like 60
We're gonna
of
fly
them.
down to the ground. Yeah.
And all together. I don't know if they have a collective mind, or if one canary just follows the rest of the canaries, or if the rest of the canaries follow the one canary. I'm not really sure how it works, but I see them all going tree, ground, tree, ground. Whee! They look like they have a lot of fun.
Sam's here.
Hey, Sam.
Sam's driving home from Elton John. We probably won't have signal for long.
Yeah. How did that go? Or I suppose, how was it?
Oh, how did that go? That works.
How did that go?
Yeah, how did it go?
Yeah.
Comment les fait?
Yeah, totally. So for green, green is actually one of those colors that I rarely use. So when we were talking in yesterday's stream, we were talking about the pencils that I have in my pencil box that I never use. Most of them are the entire spectrum of green. So I rarely use green. Instead, when it comes to needing to use green, like I did in the steampunk coloring, I tend to use more blue with yellow. I don't know why, but ever since I was a kid, I just prefer building up my greens instead of using a pencil that's green. So now I happen to have a few green pencils here, so I will use a couple of them, and then I'll switch to yellow, and then I will add some blue. I just think that the green that you get when you mix blue and yellow is stronger and somehow more, I don't know, relatable.
Real.
Yeah, than the blue pencils that you get. I don't know, maybe I see colors differently than other people, but there's something fake about the green pencils that I own, at least. But again, it was my whole life. I remember I was a kid, and when my mom would take me to people's houses, like when she would go for dinner at somebody's house, all of her friends would always have a pencil set for me to play with. So they would put me in a room so that I would stay away from the grown-ups and let them do their grown-up things and grown-up talks, eat their grown-up dinners, and they would put me in the room and give me whatever art supplies they happened to have in the house. And that would keep me occupied for the entire duration of the adult dinner event. And different houses have different art supplies, but everyone was always very surprised that I would actually set the green crayon or the green marker aside, yet I would still create things that have green on the page, and I would be using blue and yellow.
I like how you set it aside just so like you wouldn't accidentally
it's like it's tainted. I'm just like, no, not this one.
Cindy says there's a person on YouTube and Instagram named Vitruvian Artist who focuses on doing gems. Have you encountered this person?
I have not, but they sound very interesting.
Sam says your gems look beautiful.
Thank you, Sam. So adding this canary yellow will make our green really pop. I used that parrot green and turquoise, or aquamarine, which is a blue color. And now I am blending it with canary yellow. And I think that creates a much more vibrant green. And then we will add a dark blue, kind of like the blue of my hair, for the really dark parts. Oh, there is a wolf outside.
Tech support will now go
investigate what's going on
with
the dogs. Okay, so the same principle applies as with this one. You have to consider the shape, the entire shape of the gemstone. This one is round, and the center part is this area right here, and then break it down into elements, because there's so many lines here it can be completely overwhelming. Break it down into elements. Here we have the center panel with a little bit of definition. You can see that the lines are all coming to the center. That's the pivot point that all gemstones have in the back. And then you have these triangles here that are like the flower petals of this particular cut of there's a rabbit outside. The dogs are hunting it. We have a lot of rabbits on the property. And recently we started having rabbits that live under our container. So the dogs can't get to them, and they're just constantly being taunted by these rabbits. Shelby thinks that if you just bark at them, they will come out and then she can eat them, but it doesn't work. So she's very frustrated. She can see them and smell them, but she can't get to them. So here, these guys, the flower petal triangles all around the center, are one of the main elements. So I want to make sure to color at least one of them in a completely solid block of color. If we had the light coming from this direction, I would have had one solid white and maybe a solid black almost opposite of it. But I'm going to have my big glitter thing, like this one or that one, on one of the intersections. So none of the faces are pure white, but I did make one of the faces my solid dark color, which isn't black. In this case, it's really dark green. But still, establishing at least one of them, two would be even better, will give the suggestion of the shape of that diamond. If you make all of them a solid color, the illusion will be broken, because that's not realistic. They're not flat, they're actually tilted to the sides. So light and shadow will fall, well, shadow doesn't fall on things, but light will fall on them only from one direction, or from two if you have multiple light sources. But they can't possibly all be lit the same way, because they're all sloped and it's a sphere, so they're going around in a circle. So some of them will be darker, some of them will be lighter. So just make sure to keep at least one of them in a solid color with no gradient. This canary yellow is working out nicely. I will add more of it. And I will will switch to a dark blue. Let's see, what do I have for a dark blue? I'm not even going to read that. That's a terrible name. It's a very dark blue, like an indigo blue.
I'll go help.
You will go help?
I'll go help. You still good for...
I am still good. Can you just check if there are any questions? And then if there are, I'll start answering that, and I will wait for you to return.
Evelyn says more depth and facets. I don't know what that was in response to. Maybe something that you said.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, but that's it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I am adding the really dark blue, which indigo blue. I'm going to call this indigo blue. And adding it over my dark green makes it look almost black. On camera, it probably looks black, which is exactly the effect that you want to go for. You want these to be extremely dark, but still technically have color. Oh my god, now the peacock is screaming too. I was gonna say it's like we live on a farm or something, but we do actually live on a farm. So I don't know what kind of a gemstone I am coloring here. It's definitely not an emerald because it's too like salad green. I would go more towards emeralds are not actually that shiny. They're kind of murky. Certainly you want your emerald to be as clean as possible with very little cloudy effects in the center for it to be a more valuable stone. But emeralds are not known for being super transparent like this gemstone right here. They're quite opaque, and the color is very thick, and you can't see through emeralds, and you don't really get that very strong gradient in them. So this is definitely not an emerald, even though it's green. There are probably lots of different semi-precious stones that can be green, or it can just be an imaginary gemstone. You know, you guys asked for greens, so here you go, green it is. And again, I am adding a little bit more darkness here around the part that will be sparkly. And I'm not doing any definition on the inner part here like I did in this gemstone. And the main reason is I want this flat surface to look really flat because there's so much going on the sides, so many different cuts in different directions, that if I were also to draw out all the little details in the center, it would take away from the brain's comprehension of the shape of this gemstone. Remember, it's all about creating an illusion. You want someone to look at this and clearly think sparkly, shiny, very smooth to the touch. You don't need to convey photorealism here. And actually, I think, Lori, you had a question. You had a question for me on Messenger a couple of days ago, and I said that I would address it during the live stream, the Drawing Faces live stream. But you weren't there, so you weren't there to ask me the question again, and then I forgot about it. So I'm really sorry. I will address it now. I believe that your question was, a rabbit. Do you want to show him? A rabbit has been captured.
I'm about to go free it. This rabbit
This rabbit will be rescued.
This rabbit.
He's a baby.
He's a little baby rabbit. Careful, don't get bitten.
I won't. I'll just scratch the top. He's so soft.
Yeah.
No. Will you set him free in the field?
I will set him free in the field.
Okay. Your life has just been saved from the jaws of death. Use it wisely.
Yes. This rabbit just won the lottery.
Yes, that's one lucky rabbit. No, thank you for showing him. That was insanely adorable. We may have to do a rabbit coloring tutorial. So back to Lori's question. I believe that the question was, how do I know when to color things realistically or when to color things more cartoony? Because you guys often hear me say in my coloring tutorials that I'm going for mostly realism, but also with a strong sense of fantasy because I'm following the style of the coloring. And that's an excellent question. I think she was asking the question mainly in terms of portraits and human characters, and not in terms of gemstones, but it also applies to gemstones or any sort of coloring. Like, how do you know if you should make this 100% photorealistic or if you should try to make it more cartoony? And the answer is it's a personal preference. You can certainly go for photorealism no matter what, but the style of the drawing for me helps make that decision. For instance, these gemstones are drawn very, very realistically, as realistically as they can be drawn with solid line. The complication is that anything that has solid outlines will never be 100% realistic. So technically, unless you can get rid of all of these outlines completely and like paint over it with acrylic paint maybe, and actually turn it into a painting just using the lines as an outline, you can't make it photorealistic. That would be the only way, using a kind of paint that would cover the outlines. But if you're keeping the outlines themselves will add to the cartoony style, because you can have a photorealistic cartoony style, just like in a lot of video games. We were talking about Borderlands earlier. The Borderlands illustration style is hyper realistic, like all their faces and the costumes and all the creatures, incredible illustration, but their drawing style stands out because of the thick outlines, and those outlines immediately make you think of cartoons and comic books, graphic novels. So if you're coloring with pencils, you can certainly follow all the rules of photorealistic coloring, but keep in mind that the fact that you are seeing the outlines will always make it look a little bit more cartoony. So knowing that, I tend to exaggerate my colors a little bit. So I'm following all the rules of light and shadow that would apply to photorealistic coloring, but I'm using color and contrast to make it a little bit over the top to balance out those really bright, really vivid outlines. So Lori, I hope that makes sense. I know I apparently end my every question with that, as I hope that makes sense. I think it's because I can't hear your response. If I was talking to you in real life, there would be like a head nod or some kind of indication that I'm making sense to let me know if I should continue talking about it or call it done. But here I don't have any kind of feedback, and certainly the people watching this 30 days later don't. I have no idea what their response is like. So I'm trying to answer all these questions as fully as I can. And tech support is back.
I'm back. Dude, that bunny has no idea how lucky he is. Little baby bunny. They come in from the field, and then we have old scrap wood under the container. The container's about 1.5 feet off the ground. Literally, by container, like 40-foot shipping container that we use for storage. And they decide that under the wood is a great place to go.
And we also have like pipes and hoses down there, and they're like they burrow in there because they like tunnels. Yeah. So those are tunnels for them.
Shelby dragged one of the big pipes out this morning, so she's been after that dude for a while, but he's out taunting. In the field now,
doing his rabbit thing. He'll be back. They don't actually ever learn.
People are talking about the bunnies that they had, and somebody had a lop, and somebody else's 18-year-old granddaughter. So Evelyn had a lop. Cindy's 18-month-old granddaughter loves the bunny.
No, she showed her the bunny. Yeah. Nice. I'm glad that we had a bunny appear on the show.
All right, it is 12:55.
It is 12:55, and I am almost done with this gemstone. I'm only going to use my white gel pen to make the magical highlight, and we'll start our final question session. So if you have any final questions on anything, on something that you've seen me do today or something completely unrelated, please ask them now. I was about to ask for music.
I'll get a copyright strike for that.
Oh no! La la la.
Wow, I'm amazed at how fast you colored that.
The gemstone?
Yeah.
Yes, it's well, it being smaller certainly helped.
It's not often you hear somebody say that.
Never mind. Okay, so just my highlights. The important thing with these gel highlights, the important thing to remember is to not add too many. You don't want to outline the whole thing in white, because unless that's the cartoony style that you're going for. In some styles that works. If you really want it to be kind of comical, then certainly you can do a full white outline of this gemstone, and it will also come across as a shiny gemstone. But we're going for a little bit more realism, so I will add just a few highlights here and there. And because there are only a few of them, the ones that we have will stand out against the rest of the composition and therefore look shiny. But if we add them all over the place, they will just become the norm, and there will be nothing special about them.
Cindy wants to know if you could sum this up as saying use a light, medium, and dark color for gems plus white for highlights.
Correct. Yes. Very good summary.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? Tech support.
They're all talking about bunnies now.
Bunnies.
Cindy actually spun yarn from her Angora bunny.
Really?
Not from the bunny itself, but from the hair.
No. I had all sorts of images going on in my head there. Like, really? Yes, I figured. I bet that's super soft.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, those are incredible soft bunnies. Okay. So for the shine, I like to use a gel pen and then my Q-tip to kind of smear it in the direction of the glow. And again, you kind of just go by what feels right. There's an exact science to it. Just if it looks shiny and it looks shiny enough, like, I think it's time to stop. As much as it's actually pleasant to be adding these little white highlights, I'm looking at it in real life and I'm looking at it on the screen and it looks like it's shining. If I add any more white, I think it will kill the illusion, so I will stop it right here. And there you go, green as requested. I think that went well. I hope you guys learned a lot or some about coloring gemstones, and grab that page on Patreon. I posted it a couple of weeks ago, and give it a shot as well. I would love to see how you approach gemstones. Remember, this isn't the only way to do it, and I went for more realism based on the style of the drawing that it is, but you're welcome to change it completely around. I hope that this demo showed that the exact colors don't actually matter, that we have a red one and a green one and a yellow one and a blue one and a purple one, and they all look equally shiny, equally, like, they convey the feeling of the smooth texture if you were to pick them up. So contrast. And if you have drawings, because these are mine, so I add a little bit of the pencil strokes to indicate which parts should be the darkest. But a lot of coloring material that's out there, you have gemstones that just have the outlines of where the gem is cut, and you don't have the suggestions of the shadows. If you're working with that kind of a line drawing, which is perfectly fine, by the way, there's nothing wrong with it, remember to use high contrast. So really dark facets in your gemstone contrasted by pure white ones, and your main color isn't actually doesn't take up the most space in the gemstone. You can see that you have just as much dark, just as much white as you have your yellow or red or green or what it may be. So if there are no more questions, we'll wrap this up and say goodbye, right?
No more questions. Some rabbit chat. Everyone wants to know if you ever use punks.
I don't know what those are.
I think punk, it's like aren't those the smoothie things? Or was that a different name?
I don't know. I don't know. What are they? We should wait.
They're dudes that hang out outside coffee shops with mohawks.
Right?
Spiky leather jackets. So we'll actually...
We'll wait, and we will continue drinking my 2-hour-old coffee.
Delicious.
Still warm in my super not sponsored Yeti cup. Thank you again, Peter McKinnon, for making me say not sponsored every single time I use an object.
Rolled paper.
Rolled paper?
Oh, stubs are the blenders.
Yeah. I didn't know that that's what they were called. I have those, and I love them.
No. So stubs are the blenders. She's talking about punks.
Oh.
So
but
now we know they're rolled paper. I've only ever heard of them in, like, you use them for smoldering when you're lighting fireworks.
Remember the really fancy... You should switch to both of us because we're talking to each other now. Remember the really fancy pencil set that you got me like a year ago, 2 years ago? The one with the zipper, and it has like... It's like a book with a zipper, and it has pencils.
Oh, it had like the holder thing and all the different charcoals and stuff? Yeah.
I still have it. I will show it to them during the next show. It had 2 of those, and they look like pencils, but they're actually like really densely packed paper. And I use them for my black and white.
You could actually sharpen them, right?
You can actually sharpen them, yeah. So like the Whitney Houston portrait that I did, I used that for blending. So like super hyper realistic photography, portrait photography drawing, I use them for that. If that's what you're talking about, I do like them, and specifically for black and white photorealistic portraits.
So stubs are also called punks.
Ah, okay. Well, live and learn.
Next time I see a dude with a mohawk, I'm gonna be like, "What's up, stub?"
Stub. See what I mean? I'm always learning something from you guys as well.
There you go.
That's awesome. All right, we're properly giggly now, so we're gonna say goodbye. Thank you all for joining. Welcome, new members. Great to have you here. I'm glad you could make it. Bye.
Bye.